In this video, I will briefly talk about how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting the truckload sector of the trucking industry in the U.S. We've seen a tremendous increase in the amount of consumer purchases of toilet paper and non-perishable items. Well, it will come as no surprise that in order to restock those store shelves, we've seen a dramatic increase in the number of truckload shipments. Now, the magnitude of this increase is truly stunning. So what I've done here is, through Michigan State's partnership with the company Freightways, reproduce some data on outbound tender volume. So in other words, the amount of truckload shipments taking place in the United States. I've produced this data for about a year. You'll see that in comparison to last year at this time, shipment volume is up almost 30%. And if we take a look, this is all taking place just within the month of March. Over the last 3 weeks, we've seen a 30% increase in the amount of outbound shipments. Now, this has been facilitated in part because hour of service rules have been relaxed on COVID-19 related shipments. And so that is helping facilitate the increase of capacity that we're seeing in order to meet all of this demand. Now, the reason that we know most of these shipments are to replenish retail stores is we can see in this plot that I've produced here, with the increase year over year in the amount of outbound shipments, the largest increases have taken place on shorter distance shipments. So, for example, mid-haul shipments of about 250 to 450 miles. Shipments of this length are what we commonly see for replenishment of retail stores, because manufacturers' facilities are typically located within 450 miles of major retailers' distribution centers. Now, with that increase in shipping volume, what happens is that many trucking companies cannot handle this massive increase in volume. So what we would expect to have happen is tender rejections increase. Now, a tender rejection occurs when a truckload carrier with whom a shipper has a contract, for whatever reason, says, we cannot haul the specific shipment that you want. So what I've done here is reproduce, again, our shipping volume in green, but then I've produced the tender rejection index. So this is what percentage of shipments are being rejected. We can see that traditionally tender rejection spikes around the Christmas holiday because drivers want to be home. But if we take a look in comparison, last year we were at about 7.5% at this time. We're now a little bit over 18%. And you'll see a very strong correlation between tender rejections increasing as this outbound volumes increase. And so what that does is that leads to increased prices for one-time shipments, which we call spot market shipments. So here what I've done is I've plotted the tender rejection series in light green, and then the price of spot market shipments from a company called DAT that Freightways works with. What you'll see is there's a very strong correlation between shipments being rejected and the price of spot market shipments. And the reason for that is when shipments are rejected, they go to the spot market. And so that's essentially increasing the demand for spot market transportation. You'll see right here that we have a very, very, very strong uptick recently in the price of spot market freight. And that's due to this increase in demand. This data is cutting off about a week ago, so this price is only going to be going higher. So what can we expect? Well, over the next roughly 4 weeks, let's say, so the very near term, trucking companies are going to do very well for themselves, hauling consumer packaged goods shipments, hauling medical shipments, and hauling, food replenishments to get their stores restocked and to make sure our hospitals have the necessary supplies they need. Because this increase in volume is very unanticipated, this is going to lead to a lot of tender rejection, which is going to lead to a lot of loads in the spot market and higher spot market prices. Now, this process cannot go on indefinitely. So a prediction is within about 5 weeks, once we've got the stores restocked, and assuming that most manufacturing facilities are still either closed down or operating at minimal capacity, we will see a massive reduction in outbound shipments. That in turn is going to lead to lower tender rejections and in turn lower spot market prices. So I hope this update clarifies what's going on in the United States truckload market today. If you're interested, please reach out to me at Michigan State's webpage. Thank you very much for your time.